for those who were not here where I'm introducing myself, Fatuma Said, the Deputy Director for the Partnership and UN Collaboration Division here at FAO. So it will be my honor to be moderating this session today. The discussion will focus on creating a sustainable agri-food ecosystem, leveraging high-performance computing, artificial intelligence, and data science, the FAO Mississippi State Partnership. That's the topic of our discussion today. And just for a few words to give some background on the food security situation, as we all know, things are not getting any better, on the contrary. Based on the last global report launched by FAO, the Global Report on Food Crisis, we still have many countries and people at crisis. Actually, crisis has become not just a crisis, but a constant situation, which is quite alarming. As of the latest figure, over 295 million people in 53 countries and territories have experienced in 2024 acute food insecurity. Despite the collective effort, the number remains high and unacceptably high. Weather, extreme weather, conflict, and economic shocks continue to be the driver for this food insecurity. And the situation we are facing now, diminishing resources, are only putting more pressure on opportunities to build resilience, and especially the resilience of those most affected. So now, more than ever, partnering and really working together, it's no longer an option if we wish to address these challenges. And looking at identifying more innovative approaches and advancing forward-thinking solutions like what we are doing today is only going to help us to achieve the vision of a real sustainable agri-food system transformation. With this in mind, today we will also learn about what FAO means by engaging in transformative partnerships. What do we mean by addressing or bringing about systemic change, sustainable systemic change, with long-term solution and catalyzing impact at scale. Today we will speak about transformative partnership with Mississippi State University, more specifically how we are cooperating through creating a sustainable agri-food ecosystem, leveraging high-performance computing, artificial intelligence, data, and science. We will hear from our distinguished guests and panelists on related topics of the state of innovation today, on FAO's integration of innovation across all its program and work, and successful experiences of FAO and MSU to support sustainable agri-food system transformation. The collaboration on scaling up extension and advisory services through digital enabled tools, enhancing informatics and technology through knowledge transfer of geoscience, artificial intelligence, precision agriculture, and unmanned aerial vehicles, and the long-standing collaboration supporting sustainable aquaculture, biosecurity, responsible use of antimicrobial resistance. To start the discussion today, I would like to introduce Dr. Mark Coonan, President of Mississippi State University, who will speak to the state of innovation today. Mark, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for that introduction and for your gracious hospitality and welcoming our Mississippi State University delegation to FAO. Again, my name is Mark Keenum, and it's indeed an honor for me and for our delegation to be here. I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk about the strong and productive partnership between Mississippi State University and the Food and Agriculture Organization. Mississippi State, just a bit about our university, it is a leading land grant university, and it is a Carnegie R1, very high research productivity university. Our annual research expenditures are estimated to exceed $350 million, of which over $100 million of that total are directly associated with our work in agriculture and natural resources. And we, as a university, as a land grant, we proudly support our state of Mississippi, and the largest economic sector in our state is agriculture and natural resources. And we're also preparing, as a university, the next generation of agricultural leaders through our very robust education and our hands-on training. And to fight and to eradicate hunger and poverty, that effort has had a big part in my personal life, both professionally and personally. See, I began my career at Mississippi State University over 40 years ago, working as an agricultural economist, and also went to work and did extension and outreach work. Later, I went on to serve in the United States Senate with the late Senator Thad Cochran from Mississippi. I worked very closely with him on agricultural policy on the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry, and later became his chief of staff and served over a decade in that capacity with the senator. I then went on and served and was appointed by President George W. Bush to be Undersecretary for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And in that capacity, I had oversight over the international food aid programs of USDA, and I was also the person who represented the USDA here at Food and Agricultural Organization. And I spent a good bit of time here in Rome in this organization, again, as Undersecretary for the Department of Agriculture. I later went on and was fortunate to be selected to be the 19th president of Mississippi State University, and that was in January of 2009 that I began my service there. But I had such close relationships with this organization and with the World Food Program that when I came back home to Mississippi State to serve that institution as president, I knew immediately that I would reconnect my relationships and partnerships with these organizations, specifically FAO, to engage what our university could do to partner with FAO. And so I came back and had a meeting with Jacques Diouf, who was the DG at that time, who I had worked very closely with while I was at the Department of Agriculture. And that started the process for us working and partnering with FAO. In addition to my work in serving MSU, I also am fortunate to serve as chairman of the board for the Food and Agriculture Research. It is the foundation, it's a 501c3, as we call it in the States, foundation that was created by Congress to be a research arm of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And our role is to support the department and the work that we do to augment and supplement the research of USDA, but to also do unique research projects and do things at a more rapid pace than the department can do, particularly in times of great crisis. And I've been honored to serve in that position since 2014. And as you discussed, we are facing some really difficult times in the world. And I think about the fact that as a global society, we have about 8 billion people that we share this world with. And you go back to Adam and Eve, and all the many years it's taken our world to reach a population of 8 billion. And yet, in the span of less than a quarter of a century, in less than 25 years, by 2050, it's projected that our population will grow to 10 plus billion people. Very rapid growth in population just in the next quarter of a century or a wink of an eye. And as you mentioned earlier, the crisis that we're facing in global hunger, nearly 1 billion people are facing malnutrition, of which about 300 million is very acute. It's a very serious issue. So in our world today of about an 8 billion population, nearly 1 billion are facing food shortages and malnutrition. That's today. And yet, in just the span of less than a quarter of a century, we're going to see that population grow. We're going to have 2 billion more people joining our global dinner table in a very rapid pace. How we meet those challenges of a growing population, how we meet the challenges of today, for that matter, will depend on the work that we do. The work that we do collectively in research and education and leadership. And that's what we're committed to as a major university who has a global role to play. Global food security is one of, again, our most urgent challenges, and it demands transformative innovation. We cannot rely on today or yesterday's tools to meet the needs of tomorrow. High-performance computing now allows us to simulate crop growth under different climate scenarios, model pest outbreaks, and optimize supply chains, all in minutes and hours, as opposed to weeks and months. Artificial intelligence is revolutionizing predictive analytics, drought forecasting, and precision agriculture, helping us produce more food with fewer resources while reducing environmental impacts. These tools are powered by data from satellite imagery to soil sensors, which fuel smarter, more sustainable agricultural systems. This kind of innovation is at the heart of our partnership with FAO. Mississippi State has led agricultural innovation in our nation for more than a century, going back to us creating the very first mechanical cotton picker was at Mississippi State University. The application of ammonia fertilizers and many of today's cutting-edge technologies. It also includes the launch of unmanned aircraft systems with advanced sensors that are pushing the boundaries of what is possible. We're using advanced computing to help partners like FAO and others solve real-world problems. For example, our supercomputer, one of several supercomputers, but the one that's named Atlas, is a computer that is our collaboration with the U.S. Department of Agriculture. The Atlas supercomputer is the main supercomputer that's used by the entire Department of Agriculture through the Agriculture Research Service to serve the research activities throughout our entire nation. And that computer is on our campus. Our computing center and our computer capacity is renowned. Mississippi State University is ranked number 4 among all universities in our nation in high-performance supercomputing capacity. It's one of our strongest strengths on our campus. We're also at the forefront of autonomous agricultural systems. Our renowned Agricultural Autonomy Institute focuses on advanced autonomous farm equipment and a fast-growing area of full opportunity of complexity in this field of autonomous agriculture. Mississippi State aims to be a hub for the next generation of agricultural technology, again, just as we have been over the past 147 years of our history. And it's clear, again, that high-performance computing and simulation modeling are critical to sustainable agriculture. These systems rely on, again, massive data sets, climate data, satellite imagery, and more to generate actionable insights. We're expanding our research in data science and applied AI and developing academic programs that prepare students to lead in these emerging fields. We believe that these technologies can play a transformative role in enhancing food security and alleviating poverty. And we're excited to work with our wonderful partners at FAO to turn this potential into outstanding progress. Again, we face serious global challenges, and Mississippi State is committed to addressing them alongside our partners like FAO. We share FAO's commitment to education, to research, outreach, and service, and that shared commitment is why we work so well together. Land-grant institutions like Mississippi State have the knowledge, the infrastructure, and experience to contribute at every step of the food system, from the lab to the field and to the table. Our task is to work, again, with our outstanding partners like FAO to bring these resources to bear where they're greatly needed the most. And we look forward to continuing this important work with you. And thank you for the opportunity to speak with all of you this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kuhlman. Thank you for pointing out also your long-standing relation with FAO and the Rome-based agency, way beyond, I understand, as Mississippi State University and as a policymaker and beyond. So it's really a pleasure to hear from you, and also all the innovation and technologies that you are working on to address this rapidly changing population and to address the food security. Now, I would like to introduce Vincent Martin to speak. Vincent is the Director of Office of Innovation of FAO, and he will speak to the role of leveraging innovation, innovative technologies, and new approaches through FAO in addressing global food challenges. Vincent, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Fatuma. And I would like to start my presentation or my remarks from where you left it, Mark. But before saying anything, I just wanted to thank Mississippi State University for the collaboration. We had the chance of having an expert in our office for several months, and we had the opportunity to discuss how we can better leverage digital agriculture, digital tools in the framework of extension services, and it has been a great contribution. We learned a lot from what you are doing and what is being done in the United States, and we are thinking of how we could maybe localize this expertise in some of the countries where we are working, and one of them is Malawi. So it was a very fruitful collaboration, and I hope we'll have more of that. But now for what I wanted to share with you, I know the topic is around high-performance computing, artificial intelligence, and data science, but I'm not going to talk about this. I would like to start with the challenge we are facing, the innovation challenge we are facing, and that's why I was saying I'm going to start where you left it. Because for me, one of the big challenges, we all agree, and you set the scene perfectly. We need technologies, we need innovation. There is an urgency around that. So it's not a matter of if we need it, it's a matter of how do we do that in a responsible and ethical way. So that's one thing. But for me, one of the main gaps is how do we bring that? How do we bring this innovation and these technologies at the regional, at the country level, at the community level? And I'm going to say something which is a bit of a cliche, but I really mean it. As somebody who's been working in the field for so many years, I just came back to FAO 2 years ago, really what keeps me awake at night is all the work we are doing here, all the discussions we are having, all this conversation, how much do they impact the lives of smallholder farmers all over the world? That's really, and sometimes we feel a little bit tense and stressed, and I know Fatuma, we were together in the field for so many years. We are glad to be here because we can have a global impact together with partners like you, but we have to make sure that we translate this knowledge and innovation into something very concrete and pragmatical, so that at the end of the day, somebody could come to us and say, yeah, you changed my lives through science, technology, and innovation. So I think for me that was a challenge I wanted to put on the table. This is our innovation challenge. And that's why I'm not necessarily going to talk about technologies and techniques, although I will give you a few examples. But I just wanted to say that innovation is not just about tools, it's about building systems that connect the global insights to local realities and ensuring learning flows both ways. And to do that, so FAO, we believe that innovation is definitely a driver for system transformation. We cannot talk about agri-food system transformation if we are not seriously taken science, technology, and innovation. That's for sure. But for innovation to scale, it requires, I like this expression, connective tissues between global knowledge, regional partnerships, and local action. And so that's why FAO has created this Office of Innovation a few years ago. It's quite recent, but I would even say it's Office of Science and Innovation. We are not just doing innovation under the chief scientist stream, to show that we are becoming much more intentional in what we are doing in terms of science, technology, and innovation. So we now have a science and innovation strategy. It was launched in 2022. It was discussed and agreed with all member states. And this is our compass. We have the science and innovation strategy, and my office is here to implement, operationalize the science and innovation strategy for the organization, but also, and most of it, to support member states in their innovation journey. So now I'm going to look at the three levels, the global level, the regional level, and the local level, and give you a few examples of what we are doing. So at the global level, there is one thing, so we organize the global innovation landscape into accessible federated platforms and networks in which partnerships, such as the one we are discussing, is key. I would like to mention a few activities we are having at this global level recently. The first one is an initiative called ATIO, A-T-I-O, ATIO, Agri-Food System Technology and Innovation Outlook. This initiative, the idea came 2 or 3 years ago, and it was announced by the Director General at the Science and Innovation Forum, and it's materializing, and we are going to launch it officially in October at the Science and Innovation Forum this year. What it is, it's two things. The first thing, it's an open source database where you will be able, it's a federated open source database where you will be able to find all technologies and innovation for agri-food system transformation. Because there is no one place where you can find that today. It's scattered all over the world. There are a multitude of databases where you can find some of this information, but there is no one place where you could query a database and get all the information by countries, by regions, where it works, where it doesn't work, for agri-food system transformation. So we are working on it, and we are using, at the moment, we are using more than 17 sources and databases from different places, using AI to scan the internet and collect this information with very, I would say, solid algorithm and different checkpoints to make sure what we put in the database is meaningful. And so we are testing the system at the moment, and it will be launched in October. And this one, so that's, I think that's a very important initiative, because also it will not just be about technologies and kind of farm level type of production technologies, but it's also innovations on policy, institutional innovation, policy innovation, financial innovations, and grassroots innovations. We don't have so much of it because it's easier to get technological innovations, but through our system we are coordinating our work with some regional farmers associations to also collect that type of information. So hopefully it will be a very comprehensive database of solutions that member states can query according to their situation. And then, because now with AI and chatbots, it's so much easier to to query a database and get the intelligent answers to your needs. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. Something else, I said I wouldn't talk about digital agriculture and AI, but I am. Something else we are doing, because also at the global level, to try to federate the energies, is we just had 2 months ago a dialogue on digital agriculture and AI. we had this dialogue because we can see that there is an AI revolution, that's for sure. It's going super fast. And things are going in many different directions very fast. And I think it's the responsibility of the United Nations to think through and work with partners to think, what does it mean to leverage AI and digital agriculture in a responsible and ethical way? It's easy to say, it's much more complicated to do it in a world that is going super fast and which is also driven by private sector interests. So that's why we are putting a lot of emphasis on I mean, if the UN doesn't do it, who is going to do it? So we are trying to translate this concept into something very concrete. So during this dialogue, where we had a multitude of actors, experts, including from the private sector, we discussed some a kind of a framework for assessing projects to see with criteria if indeed they are not going to worsen the digital divide, but rather to reduce it by using AI. So we are working on that, and Henry, who is the leader of our digital team, is the one leading this initiative. The second part of this dialogue was also to come up, and it's just work in progress, to come up with a selection of use cases in the field of agriculture that could benefit smallholder farmers and farmers in general, I would say. So we are in the process of developing these different use cases and then see who could do what in this space. And the third thing that will come out of this dialogue is a roadmap. So we are producing a roadmap to have a kind of also a kind of compass of where are we going from there. And every year we'll have this dialogue, we will repeat the dialogue. And the first thing we'll do is to present the roadmap at the AI for Good Summit next month in Geneva. And then we will launch it a little bit more officially at the Science and Innovation Forum in October. And on all these initiatives, I would like to say Mississippi State University is very much welcome to join in, if it's not already the case. I'm not too sure on ATIO, or we have an advisory committee on ATIO to build the database and the publication, because there will be also a publication, but an advisory committee with different partners, but also on the digital agriculture and AI roadmap. I think it would be great to have your expertise as part of this community to leverage your collective intelligence on that. So I wanted to mention that, and then we also organize global forums, such as the Science and Innovation Forum in October. And just last week, we concluded a conference on biotechnology. The DG mentioned it yesterday. It was, I think, one of the first global conferences on biotech, which gathered more than almost 400 participants. Extremely interesting. And of course, we had to discuss also biotechnology and AI, and how AI is going to accelerate the progress made in this field. So that was what I wanted to say at the global level. If I still have like 5 minutes, do I have? No? 2 minutes. Okay, so just, okay, can be very quick. Regional and local level. We are trying to translate all that at the regional level with what we called regional scaling innovation hubs. So we are going to launch some scaling innovation hubs in sub-Saharan Africa very soon through an EU-funded project. And here we are working very much on the ecosystem of innovation. We are not doing the things per se, but we are bringing partners, stakeholders around the table, policymakers, startups, investors, and so on and so forth, to define what do we want to achieve together. And in this case of the project, it's to accelerate the agroecological transition. So there is a mission, agroecological transition, acceleration, and then there is, we are used to bring partners together to decide how can we do that, how can we achieve it through technology and innovation. So that's something we are going to do very soon, to translate all these ideas at this level, at a more regional level. And at the local level, I wanted to mention a very important initiative we are having, which is called Farmer Field Schools. So it's a program that has been running for 30 years now. It's now in the Office of Innovation with the idea of modernizing it. It has been extremely successful. It has been scaled up in more than 100 countries. But it needs to use most modern technologies and digital tools to really deliver what is needed for farmers. And we are using the farmer field schools as a way for bringing all this discussion on digitalization, on using AI through chatbots for extension services. We are testing it through the farmer field schools approach. We are doing it in Mozambique at the moment, for example, and in Ethiopia. And the idea is, because innovation is a feedback loop, it's all this, what is happening, we are also gathering these grassroots innovations from farmer field schools, and then it goes feedback into ATIO and into our global, databases. So it's really going both directions. So this is what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Vincent. You said it. Innovation is at the heart of FAO's work, and innovation is driving the agri-food system transformation. But something that is music to my ears is when I hear also Vincent saying he's really working out to bring this closer to the country office, to the field, so for a maximum impact for the farmers and the people at country level. So with that, now I would like to invite Dr. David Shaw, a longtime champion of the MSU FAO partnership. Please, David.
Thank you, Fatuna. And certainly I want to follow the comments from both of our previous speakers, but really turn it and speak a little bit about the concept of partnership. Before becoming the university's chief academic officer some 6 years ago, I served as vice president for research and economic development for nearly a decade. And in both roles, I've had the privilege to work with exceptional partners here at FAO to be able to create meaningful opportunities for all of us collectively. And in fact, as President Keenan mentioned, when he took the position of president at Mississippi State, and I had the opportunity to begin serving with him as his research officer, one of the first conversations that we had was, in fact, he wanted to be sure that we had the opportunity to be able to be participating in conversations at every turn of events. And so over the last 15 years, I've been able to be here on site for over a dozen times, to be able to develop a number of very fast friendships, to be able to develop partnerships. And that's what I'd like to speak about just a little bit today. You know, through my 4 decades now at Mississippi State University, I have been a firm believer in the power of knowledge to be able to change lives and change communities. Knowledge is transformational, and it's knowledge that we share globally that will help us meet today's greatest challenges in this world. But to truly make a difference, we need the full educational, research, and outreach capabilities of both global research universities and international partners like FAO working together if we are to meet the demands that we have out there today. We simply cannot adequately address global issues such as food security without the word partnership being intimately involved. Now, Mississippi State University is known for building innovative, collaborative partnerships at every level. And our relationship with FAO, to me, is a shining example of that, and one that we speak about very often. But we also have many, many other examples as well. MSU is one of, as Dr. Keenan mentioned, is one of the strongest partners with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, but also with NOAA, with NASA, with the Department of Homeland Security, and with the Federal Aviation Administration, to mention a few of the agencies that we work with. These partnerships have led to better and more sustainable crops, new innovations and technologies and their applications, and in cross-learning, where what we find in one partnership may lead to new innovations in yet another partnership. And our strategic partnerships go far beyond just with governmental agencies. We also have key partnerships with the private sector and with NGOs throughout the world. MSU relishes the opportunity to serve in a variety of different capacities as well. Sometimes we are the convener, sometimes we are the partnership leader, and sometimes we are a supporter to our key partners. Today's conversation is a chance to reflect on what makes these partnerships successful and how they can help solve pressing global partners. One of the keys to our success really has been our people. Many of our faculty have completed sabbaticals or temporary assignments with FAO here in Rome and around the world. Our students have served as FAO interns and have gained invaluable experience and have developed new skills and new perspectives from a uniquely global perspective. We've also created comprehensive partnership agreements like our collaboration, as was mentioned, with the FAO Reference Center for Antimicrobial Resistance and Aquaculture Biosecurity. Another great example is our more recent work on high-performance computing to be able to assess land and water resources. These two partnerships are excellent examples of what I've mentioned earlier, that MSU relishes the chance to play a variety of different roles. With aquaculture, we have served as a reference center for microbial science and testing. In high-performance computing, we have provided training for FAO scientists as well as the computational resources to be able to advance their research. And there are so many other examples that I can go into today during the Q&A session. It's also been mentioned that as a land-grant university, service is central to the mission of Mississippi State University. In the United States, extension programs have absolutely transformed lives through advances in agriculture, nutrition, health, and so many areas. At Mississippi State, our extension service is meeting today's needs, delivering science-backed knowledge to farmers, families, government, businesses, and communities. We have the same opportunity to be able to take this extension concept, as you have mentioned, Vincent, to be able to think about how we could support the farmer field schools, for example, to be able to take the resources and the capabilities, the learnings that we have had, and cross-learn with the experiences that you have to be able to make the whole bigger than the sum of the parts. We're also helping communities prepare for and respond to disasters like tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, and droughts. And of course, this is a growing priority globally as climate change increases these threats. Digital extension, as has been mentioned, is another exciting frontier. We've partnered with FAO to build digital capacity and improve technical training. We see so much more potential to be able to do that on an even larger scale as we expand this model globally. You know, the U.S. land grant extension system is ideally positioned not only with Mississippi State, but through all of our peer institutions to be able to support FAO in both traditional and digital outreach. While both FAO and academic institutions often work in the same regions, we too often miss opportunities to leverage one another's strengths. Academic partners, particularly comprehensive research universities, have experience beyond what is often tapped into as well. For example, in addition to agriculture and science, MSU brings strengths in the social sciences, in engineering, in data analytics, in public policy, and even in the arts and humanities. And we find that when we bring disparate disciplines together, working with our partners, we find solutions that no one discipline would have considered. So by broadening the scope of our collaboration, we believe that we can unlock new solutions. Now, we've made real progress in addressing global challenges like food insecurity and poverty, but so much work remains, as Dr. Keenan mentioned. At Mississippi State, we're committed to being part of the solution rather than contributing to the problem. We deeply value our partnership with FAO, and we're dedicated to helping make it grow. FAO has such a strong global reputation, one that can only be further strengthened by deepening our partnerships with leading academic and research institutions. And Mississippi State stands ready to be able to help you meet your mission. Thank you.
Thank you, David, for really recalling that unique partnership between MSU and FAO. It's a real pleasure working with a dedicated institution like MSU. really, and you have demonstrated how we can build on each other and how these partnerships is feeding into discovering new approaches and areas of work. With that, I would like to ask Manuel Parange, ADG and Director of Fisheries, if you would like to say a few words.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. There you are, first mistake, not using innovation properly. So what I want to say is, I'm at heart an academic, and I used to be a deputy chief executive, of an institution of soft money research working on satellite observation, biochemical sampling at sea, using supercomputers to develop ecosystem models that they are used to manage the marine environment. And innovation was something that was very clear to all of us. What does innovation mean? But in a place like FAO, innovation to me has a slightly different interpretation. And when some might agree or not with me, but it is a much broader interpretation. Because there are very different types of innovations, policy innovations, for example. And FAO, who I do not consider to be a very innovative institution, let's just put things on the table, I think that does some amazing innovations in policy. And in my own field, for example, in fisheries and aquaculture, we have a significant number of global agreements, many of them binding, some non-binding, voluntary, that are developed through innovative analysis of facts, opportunities, and turning them into policy. Some of those then are domesticated into national legislation, and that to me is a significant innovation, to be able to develop these global policy instruments that slowly are filtered through. But for some people this will not be innovation. They think about innovation about supercomputers, and there's another side of innovation that we have here in some of the areas of work, not all of them, of course. But in the fisheries and aquaculture, for example, we do a lot of innovation in what we call stock assessment, population models of fish populations, analysis of where they are, using methods that are applicable both in data-rich and data-poor countries to determine in a comparative manner which ones are doing well and which ones are not doing well. And last week, for example, we were releasing, 2 weeks ago in Nice, we were releasing a big report on the status of 2,570 fish stocks around the world. Which ones are sustainable, which ones are not, which ones were sustainable and no longer are, and vice versa. And this is all about mathematical innovation. How do you obtain this sort of information through Bayesian analysis? And this is something that it's not known. It's very little, it's not known even inside the house. Then there's technology innovation, and some of the technology innovation that we have here is actually very low technology in some respects, but it is huge technology in some places, whether it is the use of soldier black fly for aquaculture feeds. We have testing programs in Zimbabwe and in India at the moment. And some people, this is not innovation, but it is innovation if you are an aquaculturalist and the feed is too expensive for you, and suddenly FAO comes with opportunities. Whether it is as well growing bacteria, we do this in Morocco actually, in big sort of pipes really, and use them as feed, as aquaculture. This is innovation. Or even simpler, whether it is smoking kilns or drying racks for particularly inland fisheries, where in some places, Lake Victoria, Lake Tanganyika, in the rainy season, 60–70% of the fish is lost because they don't dry fast enough. So providing sort of basic infrastructure to dry things with solar panels, to so on and so forth, those are innovations. And they are super important. So the concept of innovation is diverse. There's one thing as well that I want to mention to you about, that is also not very well known even inside the house, that we have a collection of 50 years of boat designs of all types that are available with architectural designs for anyone to just build their fishing boat depending on what size, what is you want to fish, and even now designing alternative boats with alternative materials to ensure that they do not sink, so that if they pick up a storm now, particularly in relation to climate change, that the vessels are completely, will be floating no matter what. And those designs, hundreds, thousands of boat designs are actually available for anyone in the world to download from FAO's websites. Those are amazing innovations. So the concept of innovation is very dynamic. And I think that this is the value of, to me, of FAO, is seeing innovation as an ongoing process, very wide, and not simply simple in terms of high technology or new technologies or new tools, but bringing innovation there where it's needed the most, at the scale that is needed there. So, and for that, just to finish, I think that partnerships are absolutely essential to FAO. We are nothing without partnerships, because virtually none of this innovation, okay, some of them are, that I mentioned we do ourselves, but the majority are actually done outside FAO. What we do is just we bring them together, we provide a context, we give the exposure. But without partnership, this institution will be nothing. And these institutions that need to be partnering with FAO have to be of different types. And academic institutions are very important, but also other institutions that also provide that partnership innovations and partnerships for innovations in other areas. So I really appreciate you coming so regularly to FAO, and your colleagues are saying to Mimo, he can't escape Rome in the sense he has to come back every year. And it's wonderful to have these conversations and sometimes to go deep into the details of things, because one learns through doing these interactions. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel. Thank you. And maybe now we would like to take few questions from the participant. Do we have?
Sure. I think we have a comment from the participants, and we have some of the questions that we would want to ask the panelists. And the first one, of course, goes to MSU. What models or best practices from the US land grant university extension system can be adapted and scaled globally to enhance digital outreach and capacity building in rural and underserved communities?
Well, I'll begin. I think going back to the Farmer Field School, which is something that I have been monitoring for quite some time now that you have been doing. We began doing some things through the Soybean Innovation Lab several years ago that were much in the same vein. It was patterned after a very successful program that we had in the state of Mississippi through our extension program, where we had on-farm demonstrations and in some cases side-by-side demonstrations of existing technology or existing applications versus some of the new innovations that had taken place, so that the growers could actually come and see and touch and feel what was going on. I think that's exactly the same kinds of things that you're doing. And I think those are, to me, the best examples that we could think of as far as partnerships go, because what you're doing, we can learn from, and things that we're doing and things that other land-grant universities may be doing would certainly have application for what you were doing as well. And so I think that, to me, is a really ready-made example for ways that we might be able to even strengthen and further the partnerships that we have.
Just on this one, when I started to say that we had this great conversation with, I think it's John Cartwright, and among the list of all these innovations you are pursuing, one of them came out was the Soybean Innovation Lab, right? And Selvaraju is lead of the unit on research extension. He's the one who mentioned to me that might be a place for collaboration, possibly in one African country. So it's.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, then, if we back up and think about it a little bit more globally, so much of what our extension service does in general and what especially our extension agents in the field work on is how to be able to, and several have touched on this during the last hour, but the ability to take technology or take innovation, but to be able to translate it down to where it's locally applicable. Because technology in and of itself is not transformational, but understanding and educating how it can be transformational in the local context, in the context in which the people in the field will understand it and therefore be able to use it, I think is another real strength that we have in our extension system, and something that we know that you have strength as well. And so that's, again, a marriage I think that creates great opportunity.
I just wanted to add one thing. Sorry, I'm very inspired today. No, because you mentioned, David, you mentioned social sciences earlier, and I didn't have time to mention it, but we are also putting quite some emphasis on social sciences, more specifically behavioral science, to also understand the barriers to adoption of these innovations. I think that's something we didn't look at enough in the past, because we had the solutions, we just say it can be used, and people don't use it. So understanding the cultural barriers, socioeconomic barriers, all these, I think it's extremely important. So we are, and part of farmer field schools is to also integrate a little bit of digitization, but also collaborating with social scientists to understand what are these barriers and how to remove them.
You have time for 2 more questions?
Sure. And this one is directed at FAO. Yes, how can FAO ensure that cutting-edge technologies like AI and high-performance computing are not just developed, but equitably deployed through global partnerships to address hunger and climate resilience?
Yeah, that is something I touched upon when I mentioned this digital agriculture and AI innovation roadmap. And we had this dialogue for this very reason, because we felt that the way the things are developing at the moment, the pace of development, and who is driving it will not be conducive to an uptake of these technologies by smallholder farmers in the field. So that's why we want to be very intentional on that. And we, through the roadmap, we are bringing different partners together and defining criteria to assess initiatives and projects that will definitely help translate what is being done at the global level, at the local level. Having said that, there are challenges, and the use cases I was mentioning was also what are the most transformative use cases that we should focus on at the beginning. So we are developing these use cases. Having said that, it looks very beautiful like that, and it's if we just follow the roadmap, it would work. Actually not, in the sense that there are challenges, there are tensions, and the tensions are between these, it's not because we are developing global models with global data that they can be adapted to local situation, which means that, so this tension between global, the global perspective, the models which are developed at the global level, and what can be used at the local level is still a challenge, and it means we need to work with local data, and that's what we are doing at the moment with several countries, where we're working with national data from extension services, including data that are coming, or information coming from farmer field schools. It's a source of data, so that the chatbot we are creating or the use of AI will provide answers which are locally adapted.
This question goes to the two teams. In what ways can policymakers incentivize and institutionalize partnerships between international organizations like FAO and research universities to ensure that interdisciplinary innovations such as AI, high-performance computing, and data science are effectively applied to national and regional agri-food systems? In what ways can policymakers, or maybe even governments, incentivize and institutionalized partnerships?
Well, I would say there has to be a recognition of the challenges first by our policymakers and a desire to want to address those critical challenges. I think all too often we see so many other things going on in the world around us, and we lose track of some of the things that are right here under our nose that are critical for humanity, and especially in countries that are developing and have unique challenges, a lot of refugees and issues that are related to that, and a willingness to address those needs and recognize that without global organizations like FAO, the United Nations, and the role that it plays collectively to address these critical challenges. And that mission is there. But you need resources. And our policymakers need to realize that there has to be resources committed to addressing these challenges for the global good. And that nations who are contributors need to recognize and understand that there's an obligation, a sense of willingness to help those in need, but also recognize there are national benefits to helping countries, that there's national benefits to those contributing nations who are able to, again, from a humanitarian standpoint, help a country in need, help fellow global citizens who are in need, but also recognize that by doing so, you reap benefits back in your home nation, your home contributing nation. And I think part of our collective partnerships in what we can do is to help better communicate that in our nations, as particularly contributor nations, of what their resources mean, not only to the recipients, but to those who are making the contributions. I heard the term today, politics of food, and there is politics associated with that. There's good politics of trying to help those. There are people who try to manipulate the use of food to gain political advantages in nations. And so policymakers, I think, have to be aware of these challenges. And global organizations, again, like FAO, World Food Program, United Nations, and their leaders of these organizations can do all that they can to help share this information. And then as you partner with land grants from the United States in particular, and other research or other organizations in other nations, those organizations have a political voice in their nation as well. And they can be a good sounding board, as we try to at Mississippi State, to tell the story in our state and our nation of the work that we do and how proud we are to partner with a global organization because of the meaningful work that's being done through our efforts and through the partnership to meet a global need. That's a long answer, but that's my thought on it.
I think that's, when it comes to partnerships with academic institutions, which are very important, as I mentioned early on, I think it's crucial to define clearly what is a partnership for. So that it's not just partnership because we like each other, but that there is a very specific reason. And this for FAO is very important because one has to demonstrate why you're having this partnership and not a partnership with another institution of similar type. So for example, in the case of Mississippi State University, we partner with Mississippi State University because the university has been granted the qualification of a center of excellence for aquaculture, biosecurity, and disease control. And antimicrobial resistance. Why? Because they're supposed to provide methodologies, standards, and practices, and they are spread around the world. And the partnership is to give that cloud to the university to spread that knowledge around. We have, for example, one very important academic partnership in Australia with a university there, that what they do is that they actually run climate change models that allows us to predict the trends in fisheries up to 2100 based on the most advanced ecological models. We couldn't run them here. So, it's a very clear, specific identification of the partnership. And I think that's when partnerships work. When they are very specific, they are well defined, and they can be tracked, they can be modeled, they can be adjusted over time. And I think that's, it's obvious, right? But it doesn't do any damage repeating it, that having a clarity of the partnership is very important.
Just to build on what was said, one thing we are experimenting in the field of innovation is this what we call mission-oriented innovation. And so regarding your question, it means that policymakers, governments, they are the one who can set up the vision and the mission, and then to find a way to rally people, stakeholders around them. So I was mentioning one of these initiatives we are having on accelerating agroecological transition. There are several countries who have a policy on agroecological transition. So this is, they set the vision, but then they have to be open to bringing all the different partners together and co-create the policies together sometimes, that's a new type of concept. It's, you set the vision, but also then you invite others to develop the policies and the regulations so that it has more chance to be implemented. My experience is in all the countries I've been working, and in some of these low and middle income countries, some in crisis, is that creating policies is really kind of easy. And also sometimes dictated by international community, or we need a policy on that, we need a strategy on that, we need, then we tick the boxes, and then we use consultants, and then we develop these policies. Fine. And in one of the countries where I was, there was the best policies on earth, and none of them were used and applied. So we don't have the time to do that anymore. So we have to be very serious on that, not just to say, and as an international community, to be responsible on that and say, okay, we need this type of policy, but there are the methodology and the process to develop the policies is equally important, and make sure that it is translated into some very concrete actions. And then the second aspect I wanted to, and so that's why we have this mission-oriented innovation, and also we are testing a concept called policy labs. And it goes down to come back to what Manuel was saying. Policy innovations are part of the innovations which we believe are important. And we are testing this concept in a few countries, policy innovation labs, where we are supporting member states and governments to bring together these different stakeholders and co-create the policies together. That's just something we're trying. And one last element is also the, you were saying what governments, the policymaker can do to incentivize this uptake. One thing we haven't mentioned here is entrepreneurship and the capacity of the youth, of young people, and including women, to create value and to be resilient and innovative. I've seen it again in all the countries I was, and what was missing was an environment which is conducive to do it. So people would come to us and say, I've got this great idea, I want to put into place. So we would organize innovation challenges and so on and so forth, but then the ecosystems was lacking, the regulation, the incentives for creating a startup, for developing your own company based on science. So I think that's also something, it must not be so rocket science to develop an ecosystems where young people have the opportunity to express their talents.
So now I would thank you, and thank you really for those insightful answers to the participants. Now I would like to invite Jocelyn Brownhall, from the Director of FAO Liaison Office in North America. Jocelyn is heading the office in Washington that is really working on strengthening the partnerships, creating coalition, and disseminating knowledge, technology, and good practices in North America. Jocelyn, we look forward to hearing from you and the takeaway of today's discussion. Thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear me. I did have a technology blip there where My entire office went dark there for about 5 minutes. I hope you didn't notice that, but it was a little bit nerve-wracking when
We didn't.
technology. Okay, good. Well, it's nerve-wracking when technology doesn't work for you when you're supposed to speak. Um, Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Fatuma, for giving me the floor and giving me an opportunity to sort of wrap up this very interesting discussion around agriculture and technology. For those of you who don't know this, and I'm sure most in the room do not, I actually worked for Dr. Keenan when he was at U.S. Department of Agriculture and the undersecretary and prepared a lot of briefing papers for him. And so I've had the pleasure of working for him and also now with him with the FAO and Mississippi State University partnership. I've also had the pleasure of meeting with Dr. David Shaw numerous times. And you may not know it in the room, but the Director General actually went to Mississippi State to visit both the Fish Innovation Lab and the High Performing Computing Lab. And we were all awestruck by those research centers and those innovation centers. It's been a very rich discussion around technology, and it reminds me of the fact that everyone eats food, and because they eat food, they think they know agriculture, and yet agriculture is such a complex and multi-layered sector, ranging from we've heard Manuel talk about boat designs to high performing computers being able to sift out and translate for us a lot of disease information to the technologies around just research in different crop productions. This morning I was on a conversation around avian influenza and vaccine. So the richness and the diversity of the agriculture sector should not be lost on all of us. And yet we do face the situation of needing to feed a world with the same amount of land and the same amount of water, and yet we need to change the inputs to make sure that we provide enough for all, but also preserve that which we have, which leads me to underline the point around partnerships that we've heard from everyone here. FAO, we are strong, very, very strong on the partnerships with the governments at both the national, regional, provincial, and local levels. That's one of our main strengths. We also have enormous partnerships with local NGOs for delivery of service, with research institutions. We've heard a number of examples around collaborations with South Africa research institutions, of course, with Mississippi State. I think we all agree we cannot go at this alone. We need each other to be able to deliver. And FAO also needs to ensure that we can enter into these partnerships, not just with the academic sector, but also with the private sector and the civil society sector so that we can advance food security for all. I say this in a moment, though, when not all of our partnerships and not all of our innovations can survive. I was interested to hear Vincent's point about piloting various initiatives. And I am also always in awe of the fact that Google has an entire division dedicated to failure. That's their point, is to make sure that they understand what doesn't work. Most institutions don't have the capacity or the resources to test only failure, but it's a reminder to us that not everything we do is going to succeed, and we learn more from our mistakes than from our successes. So as we consider our partnerships and as we consider the innovations going forward to feed a hungry world while preserving our natural resources, I think we also need to step into that area of being more comfortable with failure and understanding that not everything we do is going to be the right approach. And sometimes we have to take a lot of different approaches to get the one that succeeds. Which leads me to my final point, which is around the threat to science in the agriculture area. MSU is a pillar of technology and science, really helping us and driving us to understand science better, to address our human suffering here. But science is under threat. Science and technology is under threat worldwide. I was on a call yesterday afternoon about animal diseases, and one of the questions that I had to field was, why should I trust you? I don't believe in science anymore. And I think that there is an anti-science rhetoric out there globally that is really a threat to all of our innovations and all of our partnerships. So I think that certainly keeps me up at night and should drive us all into wanting to ensure that these partnerships are strengthened, that we leverage each other's knowledge, and that we commit to making mistakes in ways that drives our knowledge, but also commit to getting up after those mistakes are made and making sure that we continue to try different ways, because not everything is going to pan out. Now, we are fortunate that the Fish Innovation Lab and the High Performing Computer Center are successes and not mistakes. And there's a myriad, if not infinite numbers of examples in those areas. But it really is going to take courage and perseverance to get us through this time of great conflict and great uncertainty, and especially to threats to science and innovation. I'll stop there, and thank you so much for allowing me to have the closing remarks.
Thank you, Jocelyn, for capturing the essence of our discussion. We are coming to the end of the session. Thank you to all the panelists. Thank you for your time. And again, many thanks to MSU for the dedicated partnerships. I'm looking forward to continuing the discussion through with our colleagues, and us will be always available to facilitate this partnership. Thank you very much.